to come. There's more to come. Let me hear you sing it. Open the gates. Open the gates and let your glory come down. Open our hearts and let our worship pour out. Come on. I want to hear you sing it. Your presence here is all we need. Here we go. Your presence here is all we need. You break our chains with sounds of victory. You're changing everything. Come on now, open the gate. So open the gates and let your glory come down. Open our hearts and let our worship pour out. Open the gates and let your glory come down. Open our hearts and let our worship pour out. Come flood this place. No one else could take your place. Come have your way. No one else could take your place. Come on, sing it. Come flood this space. No one else could take your place. Come have your way. No one else could take your place. Open the gates and let your glory come down. Open our hearts and let our worship pour out. Open the gates and let your glory come down. Open our hearts and let our worship pour out. Come on. Come on, help us make a little noise this morning. Come on. All right, you guys can have a seat for just a second. We are so glad you guys are here. My name is Aaron, one of the pastors, and we are excited about a chance to be able to sing together, worship together, open up His Word together, and learn from it today. Can't wait to see what God has in store for us as we are continuing our Epic Life series. We're talking about how God shows us that we are supposed to actually live life, and not only live it, but live it to the fullest, and we're able to do that together. One of the tools that we've been talking about the past few weeks that we can help you out with is our Epic Life app. We would love for you guys to download the app so you can actually join in and learn what it means to live that epic life. It's a really, really cool tool to be able to do so. So we'd love for you guys right now, if you want to, the QR code that's behind me, you can actually get on there and download the app, and you can start figuring out how you can start living that full, free life that God has in store for every single one of us. The great thing about it is that will take you to our hub. If you want to know anything that's going on in our church, all you have to do is head over to the hub. You can figure out anything that's going on, whether it be events that are coming up, whether you know it or not, guys, we are in October, so the holidays are here. I mean, it's like right here, which is crazy to be talking about right now. It's blowing my mind. But all that's happening, there's going to be a lot of different things happening. If you want to know what's going on here at C3, head over to the hub. One of the big things we always want to let you know, if you are a guest with us, maybe you've never been here before, we want to say welcome. We're so glad you guys are here. Head over to the hub. There's an I'm New button. We'd love for you guys to click on that, and you can receive a free gift card. That's just our way of saying thank you for being here. There's no fine print. We're not going to, we're not going to require you to come back next week. We're not going to show up at your doorstep and kidnap you or anything like that. We just want you to know we're glad you're here. So please make sure you do that. Maybe you have a prayer request, something going on in your life you want us to be praying for you about. head over to the hub. We want to be able to be praying for you. So please take advantage of the hub so that we can serve you better. We can't wait to see what God has in store as we get to continue our Epic Life series. Today, we're going to learn what it means to sit down and eat together. Anybody like to eat like I do? Y'all probably got lunch plans already today, don't you? All right, so here's what we're going to do. Before that, we're going to get you guys a good appetite built up, all right? So let's stand to our feet, and we're going to sing some more songs together. Let's do it. Father, help us to worship you as we sing together more and we grow together and learn what it means to reach out to every single soul in this world. When our homes are hit by heartbreak, let your presence meet us there. When the pain seems overwhelming, we hold on to you. When the streets are torn by chaos, Jesus. I know that this heart needs healing. So from my knees I lift this prayer to you, my Savior. And for my life and for the world, you're the answer, Jesus. Father, help us to reach out to you. Help us to know that you are the one who has the answers in our lives. You're the one who knows exactly what we're supposed to be doing every single day. You know what's best for us, God. Help us to trust in you more today. We want to sing this next song, knowing, God, that you are alive and well and you are in our lives right now doing an amazing work. We love you so much. Alone in my sorrow and dead in my sin, lost without hope, no place to begin. Your love made a way to let mercy come in. When death was arrested and my life began, ash was redeemed, only beauty remained. My orphan heart was given name. My mourning grew quiet, my feet rose to dance. When death was arrested and my life began. Come on, let's sing of his grace and his mercy. Oh, your grace so free washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. It's your endless love pouring down on us. You have made us new, now life begins with you. Released from my chains, I'm a prisoner no more. My shame was ransomed faithfully bought. He canceled my debt and he calls me his friend. When death was arrested and my life began. Come on, sing it with us. Oh, your grace so free washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. It's your endless love pouring down on us. You have made us new, now life begins with you. Our Savior displayed on a criminal's cross. The darkness rejoiced as though heaven had lost. But then Jesus arose with our freedom in hand. That's when death was arrested and my life began. Come on, sing it with us. Oh, your grace so free washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. right, you guys can have a seat.
Does each day seem to blend into the next, leaving us with a sense of emptiness and lack of purpose? The same old routine, every single day. Is this all there is? Living an epic life might be closer than we think. What if one spark of curiosity ignited a hunger for more? Starting the day with purpose. A simple act, but it matters. Extending a hand changes everything. A more outward-focused life that allows you to change a life that changes the world. One small spark ignites an army of people that help others live on purpose. Living an epic life leads to a life of design instead of a life by default.
All right. Well, good morning. Does anyone know what a mondegreen is? Anybody? Anybody? Honestly? Nobody? Never heard of it in your life? Who's never heard of that in your life? Whole life? Mondegreen. Okay. Who will just not raise their hand because it's always stupid and always stupid? Thank you. Good. Okay, appreciate it. So mondegreen is when you mishear lyrics, right? We were watching a show years back. Anyone remember the show According to Jim? Remember that? Do any of you do anything? Ever? No, I mean anything. Just like, have you ever watched TV before? Anybody? Okay, well, anyways. Show According to Jim. Jim's the main character, Jim Belushi, and then there's his friend whose name's Andy. Andy was listening to the Kiss song. So mondegreen is when you mishear lyrics and you create a new word and you spend your whole life singing that word like you thought that's how it worked. Okay, so obviously Andy sing a song, and the Kiss song says, I want to rock and roll all night. So Andy's singing this song and Jim's listening to him, and he says, I want to rock and roll all night and part of every day. And Jim says, well, hold on. So you're telling me Kiss love to just go nuts at night. I mean, they're going to party all night long. But then when they got to the day, they're like, just part of the day? And then he was like, yeah, that's because that's what the lyrics are. And he's like, no, it's party every day. And he's like, oh, okay, so that's what it is. I remember being a kid. Anyone remember Blood on Your Face, Big Disgrace, Queen, We Will Rock You? You know what my favorite part was? I know some of you animal lovers, you're going to get up and walk out. You're so mad. But I'm not really an animal lover. But my favorite part was when he said kicking your cat all over the place. Right? Like, I like that. We're kicking a cat, right? No. It's like, no, it's kicking your can. But I really did as a kid, I was like, I wonder why he keeps kicking that cat. What did the cat do to him? And my favorite one, and I'm not going to get into it, but those of you know, and I think Bruce Springsteen actually wrote the song, but Manfred Mann's Earth Band, I had to read it so I wouldn't mess it up, Blinded by the Light. Any old school people in here know Blinded by the Light? Blinded by the light, revved up like a, I'm not even going there, okay? I don't know what that is. That's never made sense. Some of you young people are like, you lost me a long time ago, okay? I get it. But, so that's mishearing. So mishearing a lyric, funny, who cares? But what happens when we mishear people? What happens when we mishear Jesus? What happens when we kind of think we hear one thing and say, oh, no, that's what he's saying, or that's what she's saying, or that's what they're pointing to, and it's completely opposite. To me, that is kind of scary. So just obligatory, got to do this. So we talked about this. If you're still kind of new or you're late into the game, we said we have an app. Just wanted to show you that real quick. You scan, just go to the hub. You can see it on there. And this kind of just companion kind of going along with it. If you get to this point, if you really do it today and you're like 4 weeks in, just click on the reading about 70 times to get caught up. You'll be good, I promise. But we want to have just kind of a daily devotional that goes with this. We want to kind of have a plan. Because I really do believe Jesus is calling us to an epic life. Now, before we get started, because I'm going to show you a few things today, I do want to kind of redirect all the way back to the beginning, because what Phil said last week, I was like, oh, that's pretty good too. So I've added it now to mine. I've talked a lot about tools, not rules, right? Tools, not rules. Tools. Use them when they help. Don't use them. Some of you are like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. I'd never use it. Okay. I have no problem with that. I really don't. That doesn't upset me. Do your thing. But here's what I would say. For people who are just like, man, I don't know direction-wise. I don't know what to do. I just, I'd like to follow Jesus. I wish someone would just show me maybe some steps to take, give me a little bit of a path. That's kind of what we're trying to help you do. So if you're struggling, maybe these tools can be helpful. But as we talk about that, we want to go back to the key verse of this whole series, and this is what Jesus said in John, past the tools and rules. This is what Jesus said. I'll just read it from here. He said, I came so they can have real and eternal life. More. Now, I have that underlined in my Bible, and that's why I want to hit today. More and better life than they ever dreamed of. I came so you and me could have a life we really actually couldn't dream of. More. So what is more? An epic life is more. Now, people always make fun of me because I have charts and graphs and I'm just my brain. I'm a weird person. But I just wanted to show you, as Phil's kind of talked about, just this Bible and prayer. But I want you to see something a little more distinct with this, okay? Now, you can go about this a lot of different ways, but as I have been trying to follow Jesus since I've been 13, about 8 to 10 years ago, someone mentioned the rhythms of Jesus. They mentioned this up and out lifestyle. And I'm like, okay, like many of you today, okay, whatever, sounds fine. But then I heard someone else say it, a different person. I was like, okay, maybe there's something to this. Maybe God wants me to hear this. I don't know. But then I really kind of started thinking through his life. And I realized if nothing else, you don't get anything else, you can like literally close your ears and do something else. Jesus had this kind of concept, this rhythm of an up, in, out lifestyle. And I think that's what he's kind of leaning to us is, hey, one of the greatest ways you can live your life is understanding you need this up dimension to your life of realizing you are loved more, that's the key word, more, than you could ever dream of. I know, Trent, but sometimes I'm not doing what I should be, and I got to try harder and do more. No. You are loved more because Jesus did it for you. That's incredible good news. Like, literally, God says, because of Jesus, you're good. You're good. Okay, so now I just do whatever I want. You can. I wouldn't advise it because I don't think it's really living. I'm just going to make everything about me. I'm going to consume everything. Do it. But 5, 10 weeks later, 5, 10 years later, you're like, you know what? This really actually didn't pay off like I thought it would, right? Because Jesus like, it doesn't work. So there's this up mentality. But then there's this in mentality where I love the people in my life more. The people around me in my circle. I literally tried to love people more. Right? That's what Jesus did. He was like, I called you guys, it's in your identity to be a servant, to love others. And then this other out identity is like, I also want to learn to love more people. God's bringing people in my path all the time. And these are people that I've got to try to think through, how can I love them better? So this up and out just kind of blew my mind. I'm like, I've been doing this for a while. I never really thought. So now as I'm reading through the life of Jesus, I'm like, oh my gosh. Like you just see this rhythm that he lived in. So this blessed stuff that we come up with, really, there's several people that do it. There's Bells, there's Blessed, you can go down the line, a lot of different stuff. But here's the concept. It was people saying, hey, let's just kind of look at the rhythms of Jesus. Let's try to quantify that a little bit and help people have like a handle. Okay, these aren't things I got to do every day. Oh, make sure you do this, then do this. It's not that. It's not rules. It's just like, hey, if I want to follow Jesus, these are kind of the patterns of his life that he seemed to do very, very consistently and quite often. Okay, so I know, get to that. So today I want to talk about the centerpiece of that. I think this is the center of the cinnamon roll. My son's girlfriend yesterday stopped by, and the first thing she said that she had cinnamon rolls. And I promise you, for the next hour I'm watching football, but I could not focus because all I could think about was how much I wanted a cinnamon roll. Right? Are they not the best? Well, the center of the cinnamon roll we know is the best. That's just this whole listen and eat concept. Now, here I want to tell you why this is important today. It's important, number one, because listening equals being loved. Do you know that? I'm going to give you parents something. I'm going to give you husbands, wives, spouses. I'm going to give you something that is so profound today, so life-changing. You ready for this? Unbelievable. You want to be a better parent? Want to be a better spouse? Want to be a better kid? Okay, here it is. So crazy. Listen. Listen. Nothing tells someone else they're important than when you stop to listen. Now, I don't like usually old stories like World War II. I'm just not, that's not to me. Some people love it. My wife loves history. But I did read this. I'm going to kind of cop out for a second. I read this about FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, president. And I guess Roosevelt had all these dinners as a president he had to go to, and dignitaries. And I guess he was telling like his cabinet and people, he's like, this is so stupid. He's like, no one's listening. I'm shaking hands. They're all just nodding. Yes, sir. Great to meet you. Yes, they're smiling. He's like, literally, I can say anything I want. So he came up with, this is obvious, I guess true story, it's been said. He has a group of people shaking his hand at the end of this dinner. And as each one came up to him, he would look him in the eye and he would say, I murdered my grandmother this morning. And he would shake their hand. And they said, literally, everybody went, great, thank you. Yes, Mr. President. No one even batted an eye. Said he just kept smiling, looking at people. He said he just kept saying it. Finally gets to the end of the line. There's one dignitary walked up and he said, I murdered my grandmother this morning. And he said the guy shook his hand and he kind of paused for a second and he said, I'm sure she deserved it, sir, and walked off, right? Now, I tell you that because as cheesy or whatever, is that not life for us? Is that not life for us? I'm married, and I can tell you how many times my wife, I don't know what she said. I just know on the couch I'm supposed to say, yeah, absolutely. I can't believe those kids. What do you mean you can't believe that? I can't believe your students. No, I was talking about how great they are. That's what I mean. I can't believe how great, you're just, like, you're not listening. You're just, gotcha, right. But I know this too. You ever been in a conversation with someone and you're talking to them and you can tell they completely could care less? I do know this. I know right then I don't feel very important. I don't feel like that person even truly cares very much about me. One of the most unloving things we can do is not really stop to listen to others. This was something that was very important to Jesus. Jesus knew that people that listen actually help other people to listen. That's how it works. So I want to give you a verse in Mark 10. Okay? I love this was said. In Mark, according to some scholar, there are 67 conversations Jesus had in just the book of Mark. In those 16 chapters of the 67 conversations, over 50 of those were predominantly just Jesus asking questions. So tell me about this. What do you think about this? It was truly Jesus with this mindset of, I'm going to listen to others. Look what it says in verse 49 of Mark 10. It says, when Jesus heard him. So quick backstory, Jesus is walking through a really crowded place. There's a guy by the name of blind Bartimaeus, and he starts yelling, Jesus, Son of David, I need you to heal me. Like, I'm blind. I need you to heal me. He's getting loud. People are like, shut up, dude. You're embarrassing us. He gets louder and louder. And the Bible says Jesus walking stops, and he heard him. He heard one person in a really crowded place. He heard. See, we can talk about listening, but I think a better question is, am I hearing you? Am I really trying to hear you? He stopped and he said, tell him to come here. So they called the blind man. Cheer up, man. They said, come on. He's calling your name. This might be a great day for you. Bartimaeus threw aside his coat, jumped up, came to Jesus, and Jesus heals him. The end. But there's a part of this story that's really fascinating in verse 51. Jesus looks at this blind guy who's yelling, Jesus, heal me. Jesus, give me my sight. Jesus, help me. And Jesus walks up to him and literally says, what do you want me to do for you? Everyone around, if I'm a follower of Jesus at that point, I'm like, are you serious, Jesus? Like I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but there's a blind dude yelling for someone to help him. I don't have to be a genius to figure this out. Jesus, I think I can answer this question for you. I think he'd like to get healed so he can see. Case solved. But Jesus actually stops. So this blind man who's just hearing people tell him to be quiet, all these noises he's heard, he finally hears someone stop and say, what do you want me to do for you? Now, some of you would say, he said, my rabbi, the blind man said, I want to see. Here's what I think is so profound about that. Jesus didn't assume for others. So if we're going to follow Jesus, maybe one of the most Jesus-like things we can do is not always assume we know what someone else is thinking, feeling, needing, right? And I don't know about any of you, but I'm so guilty that I'm smarter than you, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you what your problem is. And I never truly stop to listen instead of assuming. If Jesus, the perfect Son of God, God in the flesh, didn't assume what this guy needed, then maybe we shouldn't do the same. Because you know what I'm guilty of? I'm guilty of while you're talking to me, I don't listen. I'm good at nodding. I'm good at giving you the but you know what I do? I'm just thinking about the next thing I want to say. That's going to either be clever or funny or interesting. So even while you're talking, I'm just literally going through what I need to say back without ever truly listening to you. One of the most unloving things that we could ever do. I read a story this happened a few years back. This group from the United States went to India, and they wanted to bring in some health care. This is a really impoverished area of like 30,000 people, and they kind of targeted this group, and they came in, and they were like, we want to do hospitals, we want to do we want to do church. They were going down the line. And then as they were talking to people, people were like, we don't need that. Like, no, you do. You guys don't have money. We're going to save the day. We want to give you this, and we'll make sure that you guys have. And they went down the line. And they said one of the key people, like almost the leader of this kind of community, said, we really need a mailbox. Now, Americans kind of laughed at this, like, okay, we're going to offer you so much more than a mailbox. Like, no, you don't understand. In our country, we have no zip code. And in our country, if you don't have a zip code, you don't exist. So even if you come in and do stuff for us, when it's all said and done, no one's going to care because we still don't exist. But if we had a zip code and mailboxes, now the government would take us serious. Now, I tell you guys that because I think all of us do that. We all walk in and say, let me tell you how I'm going to fix the situation. Let me tell you what they need. Have you asked them? No, I don't have to. I already know. I think in this moment, Jesus is like, Jesus, why did you ask? Because I want to hear from him. I don't need to hear what all of you say. I'm not going to assume. I want to hear from him. When we listen, we actually are probably the most loving we could ever be. So we listen, and that equals loved. The second one, this is it. Eating also equals loved. See, I know this to be true about you and me. We might have a million ball games. We might have schedules that are crazy. But you and I both try to have meals with who? Family. Maybe it's extended family, maybe it's immediate family. But why do we want to eat meals with the people we love the most? Because deep down inside of us, we realize it's probably one of the most loving, healthy things we can do in our family is literally to sit down, slow down, and share a meal. The Bible gives just a few times why Jesus came to the earth. He kind of gave his point statements. I came, da-da-da. It's just a handful of times. This is one, though. It says, the Son of Man came eating and drinking. And they say, here's a glutton and a drunkard. This is what they called Jesus. They said basically, he eats too much, he drinks too much, and he's a friend of some really bad people. That was their assessment of Jesus. He's a friend of sinners. Now, why did he get that tag? Because he was constantly eating with people that their society said, don't eat with them. That's how Jesus operated. I think it's funny to me, some of us are like, yeah, I want to follow Jesus. So how do you want to follow Jesus? Well, I want to make sure I always attend every Sunday morning. Great, do it. But I think there's more to following Jesus than that. I think it's more to us realizing that I can listen and I can eat to the people around me and be way more loving, show way more kindness by slowing down to maybe share a meal with someone who's by themselves, maybe share a meal with someone who's lonely. That's what Jesus did. Now, can I give you guys a confession real quick? Okay, this is embarrassing. I promise you, this is embarrassing. I've lived in Ironton in Green Valley for 19 years now. We move in. As soon as we move in, all my neighbors start talking to me. They're a little bit older than us. I'm like, I'm not doing this game. So I turned into Batman. I'd literally pull in. I wish I had a garage that would open so I could just pull in and ignore everybody. And about 5 years ago, somewhere in that range, my wife, who's way more friendly than I am, is talking to our next door neighbor. And my name gets brought up. And my neighbor says to the effect of, he seems like a really nice guy. But my husband and I always talk about, he doesn't like people. That was their assessment of me. He doesn't like people. Well, my wife says it to me. She thinks it's funny. She's laughing. I'm like, well, why would they say that? I like people. And she was like, do you think they think you like people? Because you come in, if they're outside even talking, you just put your head down, you get in the house as quick as you can. So during that course of time, I was starting to read like Jesus. I'm like, I am nothing like Jesus. I'm nothing like him. He slowed down for people. He cared about people. You know what No, I'm too busy with my stuff to worry about any of y'all. And it really did. It started hitting me. So over this course of time, I'm like, you know what? I'm probably the worst neighbor in our whole neighborhood. And I'm the one who would claim to be maybe the picture of Jesus for a neighborhood that mostly none of them have anything to do with Jesus. So I was like, something's got to change. So I made a decision. When I pull in, if any of my neighbors are out, I first start out with just a simple, hey, how are you? Some of you are like, dude, you're that far behind socially. I am, okay? So I had to just start with, hey, how was your day, right? But you know what that leads into? It leads into people saying, hey, now I get the calls. Hey, Terrence, is there any chance you could come over and help me move this? I have some elderly neighbors. I have some people struggling. Hey, is there any chance tonight when you get back? Why? Because you simply just started and said, I need to be more like Jesus. I need to love others better. Now, I'm going to flex a little bit, okay? I'm going to brag. You're like, well, you shouldn't. I'm on the stage. You're not, so that's why I'm going to brag. Here's what was cool to me. About 3 or 4 months ago, my wife is having the same conversation with the exact same neighbor, and I don't know where I am, probably in the house, ignoring them all. But she said this quote. She said, your husband is different. And my wife's like, I know, I married him. He's very different, right? And she said, no, I can tell. He's different than he was when you guys first moved in here. Like, it's noticeable to people when you actually, nothing profound, nothing, I'm not cutting everybody's grass and losing my mind, but I'm like, you know what, I need to be available to people. Alicia Miller, many of you know, in there, probably with Cross Kids, I don't know if she's in here. We'll really bash her if she's not in here. Alicia, you in here? It's on, right? Let's get it now. With Dinner Church, that's another thing kind of hit me, and I watch her, and she's so good with, like, realizing, I just want to eat with people. And I know Debbie Blevins, I'm going to miss some people, Lucas's, a lot of people in here are part of this kind of, but it's amazing to me. The times I've even went, I'm like, you know what, this isn't profound. It's not even that complicated, but how about this? How about we just slow down and eat with people and get to listen and get to know them? Like, oh, I don't have time for that. But Jesus did. So maybe we should too. So I want to give you the main story, and I promise it'll be quick. This is in Luke 19, okay? Many of you have heard this story, heard me say it before, but I want you to hear just a profound part of this. It says, Jesus entered Jericho. He made his way through the town. There was a man there named Zacchaeus. He was the chief tax collector in the region. He'd become very rich. He tried to get a look at Jesus. I can so relate to this guy. But he was too short to see over the crowd. Now, Zacchaeus was too short to see over the crowd. So those of you who went to Sunday school, you know, Zacchaeus, a wee little man. You guys know the song. Some of you are like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about again. Fair enough. I'm with you. But he climbs up in this tree to see Jesus. And I got to thinking about this. The lower we get in life, the more we feel overlooked. Here's a guy who has a lot of money. He has power in the Roman government. But I bet if you could talk to him, he would still say, you know what? I keep trying to climb trees. Why? Because I keep trying to get higher so finally someone will notice me. I remember being on the playground in 3rd grade and they all got picked. But me, I've been overlooked. And I'm going to literally earn it, make people pay attention to me. So he climbs this tree to see Jesus. He ran ahead, he climbed a sycamore fig tree beside the road for Jesus going to pass that way. He literally started climbing. There's a book called Strength on Strengths by, I think, Arthur Brooks. Maybe that's his name. I'll look it up. Second service. But he had a phrase, and I wrote this down because it was so good. He said, people need to choose whether they want to be special or happy. Now, some of you in this group, when I first heard that, I'm like, I don't care. I'm just driving. I'm listening to it, book on tape. And then all of a sudden he started breaking down. He's like, no, think about this. Do you want to be happy or special? And the more he started talking about it, I'm like, you know what? That's kind of been my issue. I want to be special way more than I want to be happy. And he gave this phrase, and I thought it was so profound. He said, specialness comes from achievement, but happiness comes from love. And he said, we're seeing a generation of people that are really struggling with isolation, with problems. My son, like that age group, my daughter, that age group coming up. And he said, part of it is because our specialness actually repels other people. We're not vulnerable. We're not really seeking to be loved. And this was the phrase. He said, most people, if you look at them, do you want to be special or loved? I'd rather be special. That's so profound to me. Here's Zacchaeus saying, I'd rather be special. And Jesus like, but you wouldn't. You ultimately don't want that. When Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and called him by name, which is profound. Zacchaeus, he said, quick, come down. I must be a guest in your home today. Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and took Jesus to his house in great excitement and joy. Now, I say this so much, and it's so old, but people, listen, if you're watching online, or you're new here, okay, or you're kind of just getting in this Jesus thing, let me tell you something you're going to love. People who were nothing like Jesus. No, I know you didn't get it, so I'm going to say it one more time. People who were nothing like Jesus, really like Jesus. And people who we would have thought were super religious and on top of their game, you know what? They didn't like him. Because they didn't like the way Jesus rolled. How did he roll? Well, he's walking through a crowd, probably some really good, faithful Jews, and they're like, oh, I wish I could eat with him today. And he's like, I'm going to this guy's house. He's the worst. I know, right? Jesus actually looked for those people. Now, I was thinking about when he shares this meal, I've read a lot of people break down what he tried to do, what did he say, if we could do that, that's how we could help people. You know what I think he did? I think he simply listened and ate. I think for the first time, Zacchaeus sat down at a table with Jesus, and Jesus said, tell me about your life. Tell me about when you were a kid. Tell me what it was like. Tell me the struggles you have right now. And for the first time, Zacchaeus was like, someone actually cares enough to listen to me. Look what happened. But the people were displeased. He's going to be with the guests of a notorious sinner, they grumbled. Meanwhile, Zacchaeus stood up before the Lord and said, I'll give half my wealth. He's like, I'm a changed man. Give half my wealth to the poor, Lord. If I've cheated people on their taxes, I'll give back 4 times as much. Jesus responded, salvation has come to this home today, for this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham. You see, I've learned that sharing meals and listening trumps sharing advice. I want to share advice because I'm smart, right? That's what we think. I'm smart. You need to hear my advice. But I've learned by just sharing meals and listening and caring about people, that always trumps trying to share advice. So I'm going to challenge you with something this morning. I want to put on a string. I want you to see this. Here's my challenge. What if we all made the decision, prayed about it, asked God to kind of help us with this? What if we all made the decision that aside from my family, hopefully you're eating with your family, that's great, but what if I weekly kind of put in my mind, I want to just be conscious to eat with somebody. Maybe it's the lady at work that you watch that everyone else avoids because she's so annoying. Maybe it's just someone you just think about often. You're like, I don't know how they're doing, so you call them up. I don't know. You figure this out. You're smart people. But what if we made the decision to say, you know what, we're actually going to try to live like Jesus. We want to listen over lunch. We want to learn to listen and eat with others. Now, as we get ready to pray, I want to kind of let this come full circle. In our neighborhood, I have to confess, for years, worst neighbor ever, could care less about anybody. Still a terrible neighbor. I used to be a 0, maybe I'm a 1 now. But I started seeing needs in our neighborhood. And one young guy who actually has become a really close friend of mine. I would argue maybe one of my family laughs and says they think he's my best friend. But he's young, in his 20s, and had a ton of medical problems, literally from birth and heart and just a lot of physical struggles. But over time, what I've learned by just getting to know this young man and by having him in my home and by saying, hey, dinner, join us. You see, if you would have told me about 3 or 4 years ago how to fix him, because that's what we want to do, right? They're not people, they're projects. I just want to fix him, so I'll tell you all the things I want to do. But over the last couple of years, I've learned, actually, he's not a project. He's a person. A person that has a lot of struggles. A person that has a lot of dreams of what he hopes he could be. And you know how I know all this stuff? Because I simply take time to listen. And I can tell you this, I had all these plans of how I could fix this project and help him in his life, and all those have been completely wrong. And the only reason I know that is because by talking to him, I realized that's not even what he's thinking. And one day he made the comment to me. He said, hardest times for me, like during the day when no one's around and I've got nobody to talk to. Think about that. Nobody to talk to. What would it look like if literally hundreds of us just said, you know what, we literally just want to actually care enough You're like, oh, I'm too busy. I don't have time to do that. Well, you eat about 21 times a week, so that's a lie, but still fair enough. But what if it's not even that? What if it's not that bold at first? What if it's just you saying this week? Some of you are like, I'm not doing that. That's stupid. I'm trying to survive. I'm trying to barely survive with my kids. Okay. But what if you said this week, I want to actually intentionally look for someone I can just slow down and just listen to? Not assume, not say all the stuff I'm going to do, just literally slow down, look at them and say, what's going on with you? Full circle, Jesus looks at a blind man yelling for help. Are you kidding me, Jesus? We know what he wants. And Jesus is like, do we? And then he gets down, this guy, just hearing a voice, is that Jesus? Can't see. And he literally gets down and he says, what do you need? What would you like from me? Genius. So genius. What if this week all of us were known as a loving group of people that simply listened? Because all of my friends who want nothing to do with Christianity, you know what they say? Yeah, you guys talk a lot. We get it. You guys know who's in and out. We get it. You guys are bold proclaimers of your truth. I get it. But you know what? If we're more like Jesus, they'd say, I see you guys listen to people that everyone else ignores. I see you guys eating with people that are social outcasts. What if it was that way and they're like, you know what? I don't agree. Like, I literally am not jealous of the way you guys believe, and I don't believe any of it. I think it's garbage. But I'm jealous of how you live, because that's what the early followers of Jesus did. Here's what I'd like to do today. If you would, let's just pray together. Okay? If you would just take just a moment, just pray. Let's just close our eyes. Here's what I want to ask you. I truly believe 100%. Every one of you in this room, along with myself, have people that we're going to cross paths with over the next week, next 2 weeks, next month, that I truly believe God is putting in our path. And more than some bold proclamation or you making sure they know all that you know, what if we were a little bit like Jesus this week or next or this month and simply slowed down to look someone in the eyes and get to know them? God, not because they're projects, not because they need fixed and we're fixed, but because you love them that much. And the greatest way that we can learn to love others is when we simply listen and eat. It was your strategy that worked a couple thousand years ago, and God, I believe it probably still would now. So help us today, if nothing else, every person in here, to just be aware of how we can be better listeners, can spend time with people who maybe need it way more than we ever dreamed. God, I thank you. Thank you for the idea that you love us more than any of us in this room could imagine today. It's not earning. It's not do more. It's not be more. It's not try harder. It's not double down. All the things I keep trying to do, it's none of that. God, it's you saying, my son did it for you. Rest in that. It's easy to do. Thank you. Now as you tell us in our identity how we get to live, we were created to serve, to look out for others, to help others. Not as projects, but as people who need love by you. And help us as we think about a family of servants on mission. We'd also realize there's a lot of people we haven't met yet that are waiting for us and to see in us what you really look like. And it's nothing like they think. Help us to be more like you this week as you live in us. I pray today that as we walk out these doors, if nothing else, we would love better this week by the way we listen and the way we eat. God, help us to do those things in your name and you through us. We ask this in Jesus' name, and amen. Guys, have a great week. Can't wait for the following week. We'll see you then. Take care.
You came to set us free.